All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're moving way past the realm of science fiction to look at the gritty, step-by-step reality of actually surviving on another planet. We're talking about the ultimate construction project in human history, building a permanent, functioning city on a completely alien world. And honestly, the sheer scale and audacity of this undertaking, it just cannot be overstated.
Take a look at this quote. In less than 30 years, the first child may be born on Mars. Right now, space agencies and private companies aren't really asking if this is going to happen anymore. They're actively preparing for when. But you know what? The biggest question we face actually isn't about the rocketry or how we physically get to Mars. The real question is whether humanity can actually survive once that countdown ends and we step out onto that desolate surface.
To truly grasp the stakes of this journey, we have to look at a pretty stark comparison. For all of human history, we've only had one home. We have to contrast the absolute comfort of Earth, the feeling of a warm breeze, taking a deep breath of air, seeing those bright blue skies, against the completely unforgiving alien environment defined by toxic, freezing, irradiated dirt. Mars isn't just far away. It's a hostile frontier packed with completely unpredictable hazards.
That brings us to part 1, the countdown to Mars. Let's look at the journey and the landing itself. Because the journey itself, it is absolutely grueling. Picture this. Colonists have to spend over half a year, 6 to 9 whole months, confined in a tiny metal capsule, hurtling through the dark void of space. The psychological weight of that alone is immense. And once that engine fires, there's no U-turn. You can't turn back halfway. There's no backup crew, and there's absolutely no rescue ship coming to save you if things go south.
And here's a genuinely terrifying reality about cosmic radiation. Because they'll be completely outside of Earth's protective magnetic field, astronauts on this single journey will absorb more radiation than nuclear plant workers experience over their entire career. It completely dwarfs standard exposure limits, and that's all before they even arrive at their destination.
But just arriving brings a whole new level of extreme danger. Engineers literally call the descent the 6 minutes of terror. You're hitting a thin, orange atmosphere that provides way too little cushion to rely on parachutes alone, but just enough friction to cause dangerous heat that could burn you right up upon entry. Every single calculation has to be absolutely flawless.
50%. That's the historical failure rate of all Mars landing attempts. Roughly half of everything we've ever sent to Mars has failed. It is a sobering statistic when you realize that very soon actual human lives will be inside that falling descent module, plummeting through the Martian atmosphere.
So moving on to part 2, building in the dust. Assuming we survive that terrifying landing, the real work begins. Because remember, there's no local hardware store on Mars. You can't harvest wood or find spare steel laying around. So this sequential process is our only blueprint for life. Step 1. Automated robots will arrive first to 3D print domes using the one material the planet has in surplus, its own red soil. Step 2, we have to build and completely seal hydroponic farms lit entirely by LEDs just to grow food. And Step 3, machines will have to mine and melt buried ice for water. It is a completely closed loop. Every single drop of water and breath of air has to be meticulously manufactured from frozen dirt. Now you might be surprised to learn that these homes won't be built right on the surface for a nice view of the landscape. See, Mars has almost no ozone layer, which means there is constant, relentless radiation baking the surface. Because of this, the domes actually have to be situated partially underground to shield the colonists. It's an architectural style driven entirely by essential protection and raw survival, definitely not aesthetics.
I really want you to think about this for a second. With no grocery stores, no emergency supply runs, and every single gram of resources meticulously calculated, the margin for error is absolute zero. If the harvest in those sealed LED-lit farms fails, there's no next week. A single agricultural failure means total disaster for the entire colony.
Which brings us to part 3, the unseen Martian threat. Eventually, the mission officially stops being just an expedition and becomes a permanent home. But daily survival introduces some incredibly bizarre and life-threatening challenges. We have to consider how human bodies, especially kids born there who have never felt Earth's pole or seen a blue sky, will fundamentally alter in a lower gravity world that we honestly barely understand. Because of those biological changes, a simple broken bone that would be totally routine on Earth suddenly becomes a major medical crisis. And if that wasn't enough, stepping outside without a fully pressurized suit means death within minutes. So, I have a question for you, based on everything we've explored so far. We've talked about starvation, explosive decompression, immense cosmic radiation, but what do you think is actually the single greatest environmental hazard capable of undoing everything? What's the one thing that could silently take down the entire colony?
In a massive, unexpected twist, the most fatal flaw in our Martian dream is something entirely mundane. It's dust. Seriously.
But Martian dust isn't like the dust bunnies under your couch back home. It is highly electrostatically charged and as fine as talcum powder. This means it aggressively clings to and coats solar panels, and it easily sneaks in to clog essential machinery. A large enough storm can suddenly whip up, swallow the whole horizon, and cut the colony's power grid for weeks, exactly when they can least afford a blackout. It's almost like an environmental hazard perfectly designed to undo the entire system. Finally, let's look at Part 4. Humanity's next frontier, and see how this all builds into our collective future.
If a settlement can somehow survive its first grueling decade against these impossible odds, the landscape of human history changes forever. More landers will arrive, and a sprawling glass city will begin to rise under a violet night sky. The crucial takeaway here is this. Every single hazard we just explored in this explainer, the massive doses of radiation, the terror of landing, the suffocating dust storms, they are ultimately engineering problems. It's difficult, it's incredibly expensive, and it's undeniably dangerous. But it is solvable. We can eventually figure this out.
Which means the question is, no longer can we do this. The real question we have to ask is, should we? So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If humanity truly builds the city on Mars, and you're looking back at Earth as just a tiny